You feel this nervousness on the phone there?
Sir, I've been trying to make an urgent phone call up there.
Well, I don't think it's something I want to do on an overseas phone.
You gotta make some phone calls. Hang up the phone. Prank caller. Prank caller.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Packernet After Dark. This is the call-in show of the Packernet Podcast Network. If you'd like to call in, if you'd like to participate in the show, please feel free to do so. The phone number here is 608-501-0718. New callers go directly to the front of the line. We don't have any new callers today, but we've got Garrett.
Hey, Ryan, it's Garrett from Southern Illinois.
What's up?
I just wanted to comment after listening to Goody's press conference yesterday, and it seemed like reading between the lines, you could say that it doesn't sound like they would re-sign Davante Adams because of his age. So I think you could chalk up at least maybe one wide receiver in the draft. There are some legitimately really good-sized ones out there that I think would be great for, how they got used in man coverage. I think there's some guys out there that graded pretty well against man coverage. Other than that, I think you can pencil in a high-end pick for a 3-tech, a high-end pick for an interior offensive lineman. And then they're probably going to, because the draft does seem pretty deep in cornerback, I'd be +2 on how many defensive backs they go after. It just all depends on, I guess, what happens with Jair. I mean, if they do let him go or they trade him, there's another pick that they can then maybe use to move up one of their picks to get a high-end one. So there are some good ones in the draft for that too. But,
Well, one step at a time here. So as far as Davante, the comment that he made is that, it depends on how much time they have in front of them. It's not just the factor of age. So it's a matter of, does Davante have 2 to 3 years left in him? Let's call it 3, right? If it's 1 to 2 years left, probably don't want him. If you think he can play for another 3 or more years, then I think that they would still be willing to do it. I know, or I shouldn't say I know, but it seems as though, just looking at the PFF grades, Davante is starting to decline a little bit, which isn't the greatest. He's still a good wide receiver for sure. He's not. I don't think he's one of the premier elite receivers anymore. So I don't know. I don't know exactly. I don't think that's going to happen. I think that there was maybe a little bit of bad blood. Even if not a ton, I think Gutekunst will probably rather explore some different options. So you're probably right either way. I don't know. I'd have to go back and listen again. I know pass rush is extremely important. Obviously that can come from the interior. I'm hung up on edge. I feel like that's their desire to get a truly premier pass rusher is front of mind for Gutekunst. And I know they like Rashawn, and I don't know their feelings on Van Ness, but they need to get that. And I don't think Gutekunst is going to sit around and say, well, maybe year 6 or whatever it is for Rashawn will be the year. Again, he has been that guy. It's not like he never has been, but I just don't know how much you want to sit and wait around for something that feels like unless we have it, we can't be the team we want to be. I think there's been a mandate coming from Matt LaFleur, coming from Hafley. Hafley ran a defense that he doesn't want to run because he doesn't have the horses to get what he needs done. Not having Jair really hurt us. Not having a pass rush when we rush 4 really hurt us. So I agree with corner. You said DB. I don't think they're going to touch safety unless, something just kind of falls into their lap, best player available and whatnot. But we drafted 3 last year. 2 of them ended up starting. So I don't know that they would delve into that a ton. But as far as corner specifically, yeah, I'd be surprised if they didn't get at least 2. I don't know. I mean, maybe they really, I know they like Keyshawn, and maybe they genuinely feel like he is going to be a starting boundary guy, and Bullard will be our slot guy, pending some other stud happening to step up. We draft a guy and he ends up being a stud in the slot or something. But they may be looking at it saying that is kind of locked down. We just need to find somebody else. From my perspective, Keyshawn is capable enough. He's not my preference, but considering how slim we are right now, I think he would be an okay sort of number 2 boundary guy. I would like to find somebody else in the slot other than Bullard because he's just bad at it. Yes, he can grow. Yes, he can take a step. And like I've said a million times, if you draft a guy and Bullard takes a step and we have 2 and it's like, oh no, what do we do? I would rather have that problem than to not address it and Bullard is still the same guy he was last year. And you mentioned depth. I just want to look at this. Generally, when you look at top 100 or so, it looks like we've got at corner. So Travis Hunter currently is projected to go 3 or is about the 3rd best on the board. Will Johnson from Michigan is 6. Presumably they're out of reach. Benjamin Morrison right now is the next top guy. I just kind of went through, did a little bit. I'm not going to say thorough, but watched a little bit of his film. I did. I don't know if I'm going to try to make this available. I probably should. It doesn't seem like the interest whenever I do stuff like this is super big. But what I'm doing is I'm kind of building my own The Beast guide, So I went through The Beast. I said, okay, what is all the data he provides? Use all the robots, go and get that data. So, his dad played in the NFL. He's got a sister in gymnastics, that whole thing, which is the case with Benjamin Morrison. Got all that laid out, scheme fit, all that stuff. On paper, he makes a lot of sense. He wasn't super thrilled watching him, but then you got Siobhan Revel, I can't remember how you say his name. Jahdae Barron is a guy I haven't watched, but I'm very excited about. As far as PFF is concerned, the guy's a stud. Trey Amos, 45, is where he's ranked. Jahdae Barron at 30. So you've got 2 to 3 solid first-round prospects. Trey Amos here is at 45, but we've seen the Packers delve into that. So there's, like you said, with depth, to have that many guys right there is not bad, but there's still a lot in the top 100. Azaria Thompson, Florida State at 58. Maxwell Hairston, Kentucky. Kentucky was my team last year. Texas, I've grown an affinity for, which you got Jahdae Barron here. I'm starting to grow an affinity for Kentucky because last year there were everybody from Kentucky I thought was a stud, and some of them have popped off this year in the NFL. So we'll have to look at Mr. Hairston here. Darian Porter out of Iowa State is at 71. Denzel Burke, Ohio State. I remember him, I think, from last year at 85. Zy Alexander, which would be hilarious to go from Jai Alexander to Zy Alexander, out of LSU at 91. Dorian Strong, Virginia Tech, 93. And then Dalen Everett, Georgia at 95. And there's a couple like, Davison Igbinosun from Ohio State, 103. But that's just in the top 100. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 guys that are within our reach. 13 in total with Will Johnson and Travis Hunter included. So, yeah, I agree. There's some serious depth here at cornerback in those early rounds.
No, man, I just hate to see how you've always warned us about, the expectations we should have and then just enjoy the games. And, it's just one of those things where I feel like I can enjoy the games more when
we win.
All the players are on the field. They're playing their best. They're playing 4 quarters, or for the most part. And if they're still losing, then I know the team played its best. And this year, we all know they did not play well 4 quarters in almost any of the games. The defense did improve, but overall, I think a lot of teams threw completely different looks on defense at them, according to what Packernet had to say about it. He said a lot of defenses threw completely things at them that they weren't normally on tape doing. So LaFleur's, got another whole year to kind of prepare differently and be ready for anything. Because they were not ready for anything this year. That was clear. I'm out.
Yeah, that is very unusual. It's going to be hard to kind of understand why or whatever, because it doesn't really make a lot of sense. You could say, well, of course it makes sense. I mean, a team is going to do different things or whatever. Yeah, but if they're doing something consistently all year, but they always change just for Matt LaFleur, I mean, it's very. I mean, or Jordan or whatever you want to say that they're doing it for. They're drastically changing their tendencies when they play the Packers. Maybe that, I mean, again, just rampant speculation here, but could come down to just the way the Packers prepare. Knowing that they're going to hammer really hard at. I mean, Matt LaFleur is very good at identifying what it is you do and how to take that away, and how to exploit what you do. But if I don't do that thing, can you adapt? Can you attack it differently? I don't know. I don't know. Like I said, that's kind of one of the confusing or difficult to answer questions that'd be good to kind of ask Matt LaFleur about is, how do you balance between really having a solid game plan, but also being flexible enough to get away from that game plan entirely? I don't know how you necessarily do that, but I think that's something he's going to have to reflect on in the postseason, because teams kind of figured something out, and it's very weird. And it could just be as simple, I suppose, as, really one of the changes that took place, for example, was, they play man coverage like 60% of the time, so they knew they were going to play man, and they ended up playing it like 95% of the time. It was like, well, we didn't expect that. And really that just comes down to the Packers can't beat man, which, a lot of that's going to come down to not having guys like Christian Watson or whatever. It's also tough if the timing and rhythm of the offense aren't there. It's very important to be able to, beat those cover guys, to be able to have time and comfort in the pocket, and then also to have that rhythm where Jordan, is able to be in sync with his receivers and know where to go and when and all that kind of stuff. And it just seemed to be kind of out of sync and out of rhythm, and that caused some pretty big problems. So, but again, that's where you come back to the offseason and you say, okay, Jaden can't beat, he can't help us when we're playing man coverage. And that's not entirely true. That's not entirely fair. I did go back and look and saw examples of him getting away from people. The ball didn't necessarily get to him, so his stats looked worse than they probably should have been or could have been. But you want a guy, like a Davante-ish type player that, we thought maybe Wicks could be, that, man coverage is not going to be a problem, whether that's some 6'7" monster that's just bigger and stronger, that's just, you can throw it up to, Mike Evans type, or, more speed. If you got guys that can run away from it, make it hard to cover, coming across the middle of the field, or streaking down the field, whatever the case may be. You got to have the bigger physical route runners that can handle that, and so that any challenge they throw at you, it's easier to switch gears and say, okay, we're going to do this. They want to play press man coverage. We got this other gear we can shift into. Packers seem to struggle shifting into gears, But again, they got a lot of time to go and reflect. I, unlike many Packer fans, really do trust Goot and LaFleur in being able to identify what they need and go out and find those things. Now, that's not going to say that there aren't going to be new challenges moving forward that maybe these new problems can't address, and of course with injuries are going to be problems and whatnot, but I'm excited for the offseason. I'm excited to kind of start to learn through free agency and the draft what exactly the Packers did identify as maybe the issues.
Hey, Ryan. Good morning.
Hey.
Kyle from Madison. The news that Hafley is interviewing with the Jets now, if I'm Hafley and I just said all the things I said about just taking a break from coaching to be a coordinator, man, the last place on earth I would want to go take a head coaching job is the New York Jets. And I don't know how serious of a candidate he is right now, but the fact that he's, getting some calls, or at least one, to interview. I mean, he should definitely do the interview. Good for him. He's obviously, I mean, if things go the way we hope they go on defense, he'll be a head coach in the NFL someday, right? I mean, that's just how it works. And then he either is good at that and he stays that, or he's not good at that and he ends up being DC again, right? It's usually how it works, right? I think even Fangio, well, yeah, he was a head coach, right? I'm pretty sure everybody gets their shot, you know. Even Dom Capers, right? Wasn't he the coach of Dolphins for a while?
Texans, I think.
But you know, if
Maybe
Hafley
Dolphins,
takes
I
a
don't know.
job as a head coach this year, that's going to upset me more than this loss did. It really will, because a lot of my optimism and you know is based on drastic improvement I saw in the defense, and doing so without all the horses in the positions that you probably want. Ideally, you still have a lot of structure for a Joe Barry style defense versus a Jeff Hafley defense. So to improve like that, while adding only a couple pieces for what I understand is how he wants to play, is so impressive to me. And doing it without Jair and all that would upset me. So, well, I wish the guy luck and everything. And obviously, like I said, if he is who we hope he is, he will, you know, be destined to interview for a head coaching job, and getting one probably one day. But I hope that day is not now, because I was hoping we could get that guy for at least 2-3 years, you know, and build a real defensive culture. And then hopefully some assistant on the staff, you know, could take the mantle. You know, part of me is thinking, well, if he does go, we'll try to swoop up Salah, but I don't know if that's going to be the thing. He's getting some head coach looks too. I don't know that he's going to want to. Well, maybe he would hang around, but again, that's just not the same exact style of defense. So I don't know. But I just want to get your thoughts on that. And if I'm look, Ashley, I know you're listening, dude. It's the Jets. Do not go to the Jets. You just had Saul in the building. Talk to him about the Jets, okay, buddy? All right, talk to you.
Yeah, well, we dodged a bullet on that one. You know, I did a show with a Jets guy about that, and the more I talked about it, the more I thought, man, this really does make a lot of sense. I mean, not only is he extremely talented, but just how good of a communicator and teacher he is. He feels like a guy that's destined to be a head coach at some point, but I do think it's a little early. Fortunately, the defensive coordinator for the Lions ended up pegging that job. I don't think he had any other interviews, but it's just kind of it's a little bit of a, what would you call it? Kind of just goes to show where he ranks. You know, he's not quite a top tier target, but he's on some lists. He's on a couple short lists as a new head coach. So right now things are going pretty well. I mean, Ben Johnson of the Bears is not my favorite, but he's out of Detroit. Their defensive coordinator is with the Jets. Looks like Cohen is going to the Jaguars, and Pete Carroll is going to the Raiders. So Saleh doesn't quite have a job yet. I saw somewhere he's about to sign as the DC for the 49ers. I don't know if that was a legit report or not. We'll see how that goes. I know many Packer fans don't want him here anyways, but I would like to be able to keep him around as a consultant if we could. But either way, it looks like we more or less dodged a bullet. I'm just excited to see who we get as a replacement defensive line coach. I hope we get some news on that relatively soon. I haven't been checking social media much lately, or I don't need to for Packernet After Dark, so I'll go do a little roundup before I do the other podcast. But as far as I know right now, that hasn't been filled, but I'm excited. I like the prospects that we've been talking to so far. I kind of talked about that already in terms of my favorites, but I think any one of them would be pretty awesome.
I'm looking back on this game in this season too, and I know it's cliche, but I mean, there's 10 different things. They all say the same thing. Usually the healthiest teams at the end, I know the 2010, or 2011 championship Packers were a mash unit, and then they lost Driver and Woodson during that game. But for the most part, that is an anomaly. They were, and there's no way you could look at this roster even before the game and say, oh, this is one of the healthiest teams. Like, no, we were not at all. And then we lose all those guys, during the game. So, and like you're saying, even if you win, then what? You know what I mean? I don't know how bad the Jacobs injury was during that game. Maybe he could have played the next year or the next week, but you hate to waste a healthy Jacobs season. That's my thing. You're like, God, you get a bell cow like that who's healthy all year, and you get him in the playoffs healthy. you'd love to run that thing all the way to the Super Bowl, or in part. I've heard a lot of people talking about how this really exposed our lack of depth of, well, certainly receiver, but also O-line. And, of course it did. But I'm also thinking how many teams in the league can absorb, that many losses? I think, yes.
I think you got to be grateful even when you just have a quality enough starter. There's a lot of people that don't even have depth at starting positions. To have so much talent that somebody can go down and somebody else can just step in and everything's great. I don't know. I mean, I know the Packers at offensive line had that at like a brief period. I mentioned it before when you had TJ Lang is like a backup. But even that, it's not going to last long because they're going to end up getting jobs elsewhere because somebody wants to pay them to come start for them, and you're not going to pay them that amount of money to be your backup. So, I mean, that's what happens. Everybody has enough depth to put somebody on a roster. Almost nobody has enough depth to put somebody on that's just as good as the guy that went down.
It's true. Both things are true. Like Monk and Glover, I don't know. I mean, both those guys probably they should have done the red shirt thing. I just don't think they could when they had to put Morgan on the shelf. But I mean, I think I have no idea, but if I had to just guess, I would imagine Morgan ends up being a pretty decent player. He's had all year to get stronger and rehab. But, I mean, how many teams in the league are going to be able to lose? I don't think there's a lot of teams that can go 7-8 deep at O-line. You know what I mean? Even 6 deep. So, I don't know. At some point, as much as you don't like to make an excuse about it, it is a factor. Injuries are a factor. And not everybody is the 11 Packers, where suddenly your backups just are playing out of their mind, and you got Jarrett Bush making plays in the freaking Super Bowl. I mean, that's a great story, but I mean, to expect that to happen on the regular is pretty dumb because it's just not reality for the most part. You know what I mean? But even in this game, man, if the offense didn't have quite as many injuries and got it going, you can kind of erase some of those flaws. But I think the main thing for next year is just let's get healthy, and then this is why I'm not real interested in Higgins. If people get hurt, they get hurt. You can't control it. But let's try to get guys at receiver who can catch straight out of college and aren't injury prone. And then just when we're looking at free agents, just people that have historically stayed on the field. You can't guarantee it going forward, but let's look for those. Sorry, I'm rambling on, but I mean, looking back at that 2011 championship team, they had a ton of injuries. But if memory serves, they did not have them on the O-line, The O-line injuries are just the destroyer of worlds. They really are. You look at, just for example, I will, to my grave, tell anybody that will listen that you're getting a preview of me at 90 years old. Oh, I remember the 2020 Packers. And I'll be telling people, look, had we not lost David Bakhtiari on New Year's Eve, we beat the Bucs, we win a championship, man. You just can't absorb losses on the line. Now, I know we didn't lose either of the tackles, but I'm just saying, look at the Bucs that year in 2020. I mean, the Chiefs had no chance. They were I think they were without both tackles in that game, and then the Bucs Mahomes could do nothing, right? People kind of wash that from their memory. But look, that was a good Chiefs team. They're in the Super Bowl. They lose one or both tackles, and guess what? It's over. It is over. You remember how much, dude, Mahomes was getting just destroyed every freaking game. And then you see the pressures in the interior, too, because more than a lot of positions, that O-line, I mean, there is a synergy requirement, So when we see guys have really bad grades sometimes, I always like to look okay, well, who's playing next to him? If somebody comes in and they play badly, sometimes if that synergy is not there, you got to really rely on the guy next to you or you're second guessing yourself. So let's just pray for health. I think we do need to get O-line depth, but at some point it's a showstopper situation. Now I know the Vikings this year, who did they lose? Didn't they lose their left tackle and then they traded for that dude in New Orleans?
Mm-hmm.
Like, how you don't see that very often, though, where you see a mid-season trade where they actually get a really serviceable left tackle in the season and still have a season like they did. I mean, that was impressive, but that is not the standard. You know, that is very much an outlier in my experience. So let's just get healthy, man. Get healthy. We can do this thing. All right, go Pack.
Yeah, we also had injuries come post-trade deadline, too, so even if we wanted to, there's not much we could do there. But, yeah, it was a good pickup by Minnesota. I don't remember what they had to give up for that, but that it was a pretty good little stopgap, I suppose you can call it. How are we? I had no idea we were 25 minutes in. Why don't we take a break? We'll come back and hear from Garrett again. It's the Garrett and Kyle show.
Ryan, I almost forgot to mention a request for you to look at maybe the top 5 or top 6 tight ends, because I really, 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 don't get me wrong, I really like Musgrave, and Kraft is my favorite player now on the team. So I still think that they need to draft another tight end and maybe somebody to bookend with Kraft, because as much as I think Musgrave is so much like Watson, if he stays healthy, he can make an impact. But is he going to stay healthy? So my question is, do they move up to get somebody they really, really want to have to complement Kraft, or do they stay back and find someone in the late second or third round? So I think the draft, just like with defensive backs and the defensive tackles, I think this draft's got some really impactful tight ends that could be found in the second and third round. So I'd love to have Campbell from Penn State, or that tight end from Texas. Those would be my 2 picks. So
Gunnar
curious
Helm.
what you would think. I'm out.
Well, I don't know that it's so dire of a need we need to start talking first, second round. I think, Musgrave struggled with injuries. He's been out basically both years. And, hate to make an excuse for it, because I feel like every time I do, these guys never bounce back. Like, well, you can't really get down on them because it's an injury. Well, Rashawn gets injured and never really gets back to form, and Jair gets injured and he never comes back on the field, and Christian gets injured and he's injured every single year. It's like, these things are supposed to be fluky. It's not supposed to be like this, but I don't know what the problem is. I would say, not to assume that Musgrave is going to be just like everybody else, but, maybe he is just injury prone. I don't know. But with that said, I would like to be able to see him get a full run-up, all year, a chance with the offense so they can actually try to utilize him in the offense. I said before, in one of the games, the guy was open. I mean, he could have had 2 touchdowns in that game. Jordan's just not throwing it to him. So just like a lot of other guys, they're not playing poorly. They're getting open. They're not getting the ball. And so then you look at it, and it's 1 reception for 7 yards, and it's like this freaking Musgrave guy's a bum. And it's like, it should have been like 5 receptions for 87 yards and 2 touchdowns if the ball just went to him every time he was open. Not that it can. Everybody can't get the ball every time they're open. But the bottom line is, I think when you go watch, you can see the potential. I mean, when you see him sprint and he gets a cornerback turned around and running for his life and he can't catch him. I mean, those are the kinds of things that are extremely dangerous. I mean, he is a weapon. No doubt about it. The speed that he has, he could, even if we don't like him as much as a receiver because he's, got weird balance issues or whatever, he still ends up being sort of a Christian Watson in terms of really being able to stress a defense. So I still like Musgrave. I think he's still a valuable guy. We just got to get him to be healthy. I'm not entirely opposed to it. I would really hate to use a first or second round when we, you look at, another really deep position is edge, and corner and edge to me are big ones. So the fact that there's so many corners and so many edges in the top 100, I would hate to expend one of those premium picks on a tight end. That's just me. If they did it, then then they did it. I don't know. I don't know what else to say. They must really like him, I guess.
Hi, Ryan. It's Randy from Minnesota.
What's up?
I've been looking at all the stuff online and listening to the callers and everything about this past season, and it just hit me of a book I read a long time ago. It was about the forming of the Pittsburgh Steelers into their dominant franchise in the 70s. The book was called, and I think it appropriately encapsulates this year's Green Bay Packers. The book was called A Few Bricks Shy of a Load. And getting to the gist of it, the book was basically, the Steelers weren't quite there yet. They were one massive draft haul away that they, like everyone they drafted the next season turned out to be a Hall of Famer almost, but that they were close but not quite there. And that's kind of what this team reminded me of. That book, A Few Bricks Shy of a Load. I firmly believe this off season and I can't wait. I mean, I'm excited for the off season almost as much as I am for the season.
Yeah.
They're going to do some wonderful things in Green Bay. We're going to get people in, and we're going to get people out that don't want to be there, who won't fall in line. And the other thing I found interesting was they said they want Jordan Love to be more of a vocal leader. The only thing that I'm scared about with that is I don't think you can make someone a vocal leader. They got to already have that in them. My time in the service and law enforcement, you either had that quality or you didn't. And a lot of times the quiet guys were the ones who, when they did speak, were the ones you listened to the hardest, and not the ones yelling and screaming all the time. But I don't know. I don't know if Jordan has it in him to be that kind of a person. We'll see. But I do think that when he talks, because he is quiet, people have a tendency to listen more. Anyway, that's just my random thoughts on a Friday night, and keep the show going. It's an exciting off season. Go Pack, go. Bye.
Yeah, I agree with you about the vocal leader thing. It's not to say you can't, go to training. I mean, maybe Jordan can go to some, leadership seminars or courses or what. I mean, why not? I mean, let's take this thing seriously and see what you can do. It's not to say that nobody can do it, but I do think it's kind of a thing that some people have. First of all, you get some sense of authority based on your position. For quarterback, you automatically get some, and so that's why you're partially expected to step into that role, because just by virtue of who you are, people are more willing to listen. But then there's also veterancy, and if you're a future Hall of Famer, obviously your words are going to be more powerful and whatnot. So, but yeah, then there's just personality. Some people are just built for it, and some people just aren't. I mean, I wouldn't be able to do that. Be closer to Romeo Dobbs than Ray Lewis. But it would be good to kind of find that guy, find that loud, just reckless, crazy blidge. I said blidge. All right, like bridge with an L, blidge. So don't write me letters. But no, I'm excited, man. I'm excited, Randy, for, like you said, I think they're going to do some wonderful things. It's the season of optimism. How could you not love the off season? Nobody loses in the off season. Everybody wins. Everybody wins the Super Bowl in the off season. It's a beautiful time to be alive.
Hi, Ryan. It's Randy from Minnesota.
Hey.
Well, it's Saturday night. I'm sitting here watching the Lions go down. Oh, my God. This is great. Yeah, we're not in the playoffs anymore, but for this team to suck like they're sucking right now and to have all their little special gimmicky plays come back and bite them in the butt, I love it. Absolutely love it. Screw the Lions. Screw their fans. Had enough of them. They're done. Sorry. Anyway, that's all I had. I just enjoying this game right now. Go Pack, go. 25 will be great. Bye.
That was a great feeling. It just kind of put some finality to it, We lost, that sucks, but it's not over yet because good Lord, the Vikings and the Lions cannot win. Well, the Vikings immediately got bounced. Lions, we had to wait a week. Boom, immediately bounced. Felt good. I still want Philly out. I still want the Chiefs out. But it's at least somewhat tolerable for them to win as opposed to anybody else in the NFC North. I can't do that.
What's going on, Vermont Firefighter? How y'all doing?
Yo.
Hey, I'm just calling watching this Commanders Lions game, and I'm enjoying every minute of it. First, it's just a good game in general. It's a nice, high-scoring game. Like, this is probably like the Super Bowl or the playoffs. I don't think no game probably going to be this competitive and good as far as scoring points. Second, I'm looking at Jordan Daniels, and he is just throwing pretty deep passes. And I'm like, why can not Jordan Love do this? Like, I don't understand how a rookie can just come in and doing this. Like, he's throwing beautiful dimes. And it's just like hitting the receivers. And it's like he's making them good as well. Like, Jahamie Brown was not, they were saying like he was a bust wide receiver, I think, in the second round. I actually wanted us to get him. And he's like catching these passes, unlike Wicks. But it's like the quarterback's making him look good, and that's what a quarterback does. So I know we need wide receivers, but if Jordan Love don't step up, it don't matter. You know, we trying to get receivers to fix the quarterback when really the quarterback can make the receivers good. So, but anyway, and most importantly, we see the Lions like who they really are. They are who we thought they were. Like turn the ball over. They're not super good. Now give them props. They play good with a lot of backups. So I guess it's coaching. I don't know what it is, but I respect them. But I knew that they're not like a Super Bowl caliber team. Anyway, you can go Pack though.
And I think that's where it gets frustrating, especially for me, because, you know, it's easy to make excuses for Jordan, like, well, that, you know, he should have caught that, or, you know, well, that was a tough throw, or whatever the case may be. But you watch really good quarterbacks, and you watch like what Jaden did, and you watch some of these other guys, and they're just dropping dimes all over the field. I mean, they're throwing the ball right into these guys' arms over and over again, really tough passes. And if you really sit and watch, you can't honestly sit there and watch and say, yeah, Jordan does that too. Because he doesn't. I mean, I shouldn't say he doesn't. He down the stretch here, when things were really rough, when I was saying, you know, this team will take us as far as the quarterback and was blaming Jordan, you know, that whole patch there, the 3 games especially. Can you tell me at any point Jordan looked anything like that? Were any passes down the field just right to a guy? No. Not at all. So, yeah, I agree. I think there were plays to be made, and I think if we could have just had a guy that was out there just throwing dimes to guys that were open, semi-open, not even super open, but still just thrown to a perfect spot, you can't stop that. You just can't. And, you know, yeah, maybe our receivers would have dropped a couple of them. Okay. But the ones they wouldn't have would have gone for big gains and scores and all kinds of stuff. So, yeah, like I said, I'm on board with the receiver, but that's not the biggest issue. I mean, if you could get Justin Jefferson or no upgrade at wide receiver, but Jordan is playing like he played at the second half of last year, that's your choice. It's not even close in my mind. Keep Justin Jefferson. I don't want him. Give me Jordan Love at the second half of last year, top 3 quarterback in the NFL, and don't give me a single other piece on offense. Give me the same offensive line, wide receivers, tight ends, coaches, everything. And I'm going to feel unbelievably confident in our ability to dominate. You give me Justin Jefferson and Jordan playing like he did the last 3 weeks of the season, and we're not going to make the playoffs. So that's where I'm coming from.
Hey, Ryan, this is Chris from LA.
Hey.
Oh, happy day. What a great day to be a Packer fan. To see these Lions, a poverty franchise, be relevant for the last 2 years and act so cocky, this is so sweet to have them eat this humble pie. To be honest, I think I have more animosity towards the Lions and their fans than the Bears or the Vikings. Just the fact that they're acting like they've done anything. Like they've been the past 2 years,
okay, cool, they were good. The 30 years prior to that, poverty franchise. They are such trash. They had a good season, maybe 2 seasons with Barry Sanders. And then before that, trash again. So this is so great. I love it. They are 0-1. They lost as the 1 seed. That is so sweet to see all the fans in the stands. All of them so sad.
Miserable.
Brings such joy to all Packer fans, honestly. To see the Vikings lose on Monday, to see the Lions lose today. Wow. What a great week. I mean, obviously the Packers lost, which sucks, but I mean, this is just so sweet. And the fact that Jaden Daniels keeps winning, that just adds salt to the wound for the Bears. Like, they keep seeing Jaden Daniels when they took Caleb. Hopefully Caleb turns out to be another failed quarterback in Chicago.
Yep.
Like all the previous. And then Jaden Daniels turns out to be another Patrick Mahomes, so that they can see what they could have had and, just something more to laugh at.
It's funny how they hate to use the stupid word cope because it's such a stupid word, but they cope by saying, oh, we're good with Caleb. We're good with him. We're good with him. First of all, even if you genuinely believe that he's going to end up being a really good quarterback, as opposed to the really bad quarterback that he was this past year, even if you believe that, Jaden right now is probably already a top 5 quarterback. So either way you look at it, oh yeah, he wouldn't have done that here with these coaches, and Caleb would have been. Yeah, I know you believe that, just like you believed everything you said about Justin Fields. Oh, he's going to be great once we get new coaches, once we get new players, once we get this, once we get that. Bottom line is Justin who Justin was the entire time he was there in Chicago. And things changed around him, but they didn't change Justin because that's who he was. That's who he is. That's who he still is. So, but yeah, no, I'm sure if you just change everything around him now, Caleb's going to start playing better. He's going to stay within structure as opposed to scrambling around, holding on to the ball all day, taking sacks, and being one of the most inaccurate quarterbacks in all of football. That's going to change because Ben Johnson is there now. So, and then maybe he'll be almost as good as Jaden Daniels. So, congratulations, well done.
I can't wait to hear you're laughing at the enemy this week. Please have it be 2 hours that we can be laughing at these Lions. God, what a joke. I love it. Great day to be a Packer fan. Poverty franchise, deserve everything they get. Amon-Ra St. Brown sucks. Dan Campbell sucks. The Lions suck. They're going to lose their offensive coordinator, their defensive coordinator. They're going to go back to the basement with the Bears. Sweet, sweet poetic justice. All right, Ryan. Love the show. Keep it up. Yeah, great day. Be a Pack fan. See ya.
Wouldn't that just be great? I mean, if you think about it, they're not necessarily an elite powerhouse as far as their roster. Having a great offensive line helps, no doubt about it. But they really were just a very creative offense that always had the right answer. I mean, they always just had the right play at the right time. So removing the offensive coordinator, I mean, yeah, you can promote somebody from within and hope that they can replicate what the guy did, but there really is a chance. I mean, that we start to see Goff being Goff again, as opposed to this like elite guy that is like. Granted, he sits in the pocket all day and throws to wide open guys, but it doesn't matter. I mean, he looks fantastic throwing these passes. But, you take some of that away and you get somebody in there that doesn't necessarily always do the right thing at the right time. And I don't know. We'll have to see. We'll see how much they can hold up with that. And then as far as the defense, again, I don't know. It's hard to judge how good their defensive coordinator was. He got a lot of credit for sure. They were probably better than their roster, probably, but they also got the crap beat out of them a bunch. And they were really good when they had Aiden Hutchinson, but that's because Aiden Hutchinson. So I don't know. I don't know if that falls off or gets better or what happens. But, I mean, there is a chance that this thing really goes south. I'm hoping some of their front office people go away. I have to keep an eye on that because I think their front office has done a pretty good job. Mostly really early talent, but they did have, the 2022 draft where, the first 4 picks all hit in a pretty big way. So, you got a bunch of really early drafts and you hit on those, Penei Sewell and Aiden Hutchinson and whatnot, but then also you have one of those mega drafts where you get a bunch of guys all of that clumps together and kind of creates a little bit of a super team. But hopefully we're over the hump, and now they're on the downswing a little bit. But can't take it for granted, man. You never know. They might come back with a vengeance. Well, I'll tell you what. We'll just do the one break. I'm going to head out of here. Got the other podcast to record, so I'm going to get started on that. Tomorrow we're going to take a look. Got some news and notes and stuff to go through. I want to do a little bit of draft, and then we're going to do year in review for our players. You guys have a good rest of your night. I will talk to you tomorrow. Have a good one. Bye-bye.